Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the TCT Podcaster on YouTube. My name is Gavin Campbell. Alongside me, as always, my two good friends, Tyson Snyder, Cale Fleming. Today on the rundown, we got a little bit of NBA to touch on here to start off with. Then we're finally, yes, folks, finally going to touch on some NFL here in July before the season gets started. Preseason, rather, gets started in August next month. After that, of course, we got to talk about the MLB. Things finally getting heated up here, coming down the stretch of the second half of the season. Cale, go ahead and take it away.
All right, guys, so let's start off with the Carmelo Anthony situation. The OKC Thunder sent him to Atlanta on a trade. Atlanta's decided they are going to waive him, and he's going to go to Houston. Gavin, what do you think?
I'm going to tell you right now, I think we all called this, where he was going to go. I think the Rockets were the only serious contender here, or serious team that was looking to sign Carmelo, mostly because they're having some issues at the small forward position, losing Luka Mbamute and Trevor Ariza. With this Melo situation, if he's going to start, this is not a good move for Houston. He takes too many shots. He plays hero ball. He doesn't play defense unless he's playing the four position on the low post. His perimeter defense is god-awful in his increased age. And for Houston, I think this is Chris Paul and James Harden saying that we wanted a third quote-unquote superstar player, even though Carmelo hasn't been a superstar since 2014. But that's besides the point. $2.4 million for the Rockets. This is a steal. They had their mid-level exception to use, so they went and extended this to Carmelo. If I'm going to say this, if he can learn to come off the bench and accept that role in Houston, I think he'll flourish. Kind of like a Joe Johnson role, a bigger Joe Johnson role than he played for them last year when he came in and just kind of did his thing. He's called ISO Joe for a reason, right? A couple years ago, he had that game winner in the playoffs for the Utah Jazz. So I think Carmelo Anthony is a better version of Joe Johnson at this point in his career. And if you have that guy coming off your bench, you're looking pretty good. But if he's going to start for you and play about 30 minutes a game, I think the chemistry that you had going last year with Chris Paul, James Harden, and those role players, those 3-and-D guys, it's not going to roll over very well in Houston.
Carmelo said he wants to start, though. He said he didn't want to go anywhere where he wouldn't start. How do you think that'll play into it?
Well, the thing is with that is if he's going to start and Houston does struggle, they're not a top 2 seed in the West as they should be, then I think Mike D'Antoni, and we know him and Carmelo have clashed in the past, especially in New York. If they have that issue, he's going to have to move to the bench. And if he doesn't, the Houston Rockets are going to have a very big problem on their hands because the West is getting more stacked every year. And this is probably the most lopsided the NBA has ever been in terms of East and West conferences. So it's really going to be interesting to see what he can do. Now, if Melo wants to be like the fourth option on this team, I think that might work. But again, he's a liability on defense on the perimeter. And I just don't think that, especially with his percentages, his god-awful percentages in OKC last year, especially in the playoffs. Playoff Melo this last year, was absolutely terrible. If that's going to be a repeat in Houston, I don't want to see it.
For sure. So, I don't know. Houston's just going to go belly up here with Melo. It's not going to work because Melo's not going to come off the bench. We all know that. He just won't do it. And with Harden and Paul, like you said earlier, that's just going to be a big clash, especially with D'Antoni, who's very defensive minded.
Right. Well, and someone's going to be very unhappy in this situation, and the one that's going to be very unhappy is not only the Houston Rockets organization but Melo. Melo's not going to be happy because they're going to ask him to go to the bench multiple times, even though he has said, "I'm not going to go to the bench." You guys made that clear. He's made that clear. And it's really when the Rockets start plummeting, people are going to put this on Melo, and when Melo gets upset, he's going to put this on Chris Paul and James Harden and the coach. I would really say the coach more than anyone. And then, like you said, they're going to plummet. Not saying they're not going to make the playoffs. Obviously, this team is too talented, but in terms of a championship, I think you've got to kiss that goodbye at this point. Not that you really had a chance anyway with Golden State adding DeMarcus Cousins, but whatever chance that you thought you had is gone now.
I'm kind of in the same boat with Cale here. I've always been a big Melo fan. I love playing with him in 2K. I love every team he's been on. But we saw it in his last couple years with New York. He had started to decline. He's getting older. He isn't the player that he used to be. And we definitely saw it last year with OKC. He found that cliff and he jumped right off that thing. I plummeted hard. Hopefully that doesn't translate to the Rockets. I'd love to see him have a good season. But if he wants to start, if he wants to get those starter minutes, I just don't see it happening. But if he does want to start and won't come off the bench, the Rockets are in for a long season. I think he can tear them apart just as quickly as he kind of tore down that OKC organization and helped to they're not even making the playoffs this last year. It could be very drastically bad for Houston, or it could be decent, mediocre, got veteran experience on your team, a guy that knows how to win. Hopefully it's the latter. Hopefully they can pull some wins together and get him where they need him to be at.
Call me crazy, but a first-round exit for Houston next year with a starting Melo playing 30, 32 minutes a game is very plausible at this point.
So let's get on to the last NBA deal we're going to talk about today. Michael Beasley, who played with LeBron in 2013-14 in Miami, has agreed with a one-year, $3.5 million deal with nobody other than the LA Lakers. So that how many one-year deals are they up to now? They got McGee,
Six
they got
or seven.
Stevenson, Rondo. They're up to a bunch of them. So
yeah.
What do you guys think about Beasley joining LeBron in LA?
They've got someone that's definitely had some issues in the past, but that's nothing new with the guys that they've been signing. They've got Rondo, who clashes with head coaches. They've got Lance Stevenson, who's an absolute clown, as well as JaVale McGee. And don't get me wrong, I love Lance. He's one of my favorite players, but he is a clown. The LeBron Whisperer. They've also got JaVale McGee, who's been on Shaqtin' a Fool twice for the MVP.
He's got a whole episode just about him.
They've got Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and he's had issues with drinking and driving. He's been to rehab already. They've got countless guys on this roster, and now they have Michael Beasley, who's had issues with marijuana on multiple occasions on multiple teams. But last year in New York, he had a pretty good season, especially after Porzingis went down. We really saw what he was able to do. He's another scorer. He's a playmaker. I think he's a guy who will come off the bench. He's not going to start for this team, but he'll be a good bench piece. He'll be a good role player for this team, and I'm sure Luke Walton and LeBron will find a good place for him to fit into this LA system.
Yeah, I've got really no thoughts on Beasley. He's another average guy that the Lakers found and signed. Good for them. Get another kind of experienced piece around LeBron, another guy he's played with. It should work out about the same as all the other ones. I mean, they're just putting pieces around LeBron at this point. I don't think they really care who it is. That's why they've got so many of those guys with different issues and whatnot. So it'll work out. LeBron will pull that team together. Coach LeBron, they'll get it all figured out.
Not only are they adding pieces around LeBron, they're adding pieces for trades too. So we got to keep that in mind because they've got Rondo, McGee. They've got a bunch of trade pieces along with Ingram and Ball, Kuzma, whoever needs to be traded for Magic to get a ring is going to be traded, honestly.
Right, and they've got all these one-year deals, which teams love to see because those are expiring contracts. If the Lakers can go ahead and get draft picks back for anyone that thinks that they can contend with Golden State this year, they can go ahead and get those players off their roster. And if not, worst-case scenario, they've got 7 or 8 one-year deals on their roster right now. And at the end of the season, that's all gone. So they have all that cap room once again to go ahead and sign someone else to play alongside LeBron James for next season. I think right now we just have a season in which they're going to test the waters of LeBron James in the Western Conference and see where he falls, maybe 3, 4, 5 seed. We don't know yet, but definitely going to be exciting to see what this mess of mediocrity around LeBron is going to be like this upcoming season.
It's probably going to be pretty brutal, but I'm kind of interested. I'm ready to see it. I'm ready to see what happens. I'm tired of waiting. Yeah. It's sad that I'm actually kind of concerned about how an LA team's going to do. But moving on, guys, let's get into the NFL. We haven't talked about it yet. We've been doing this for right around a month. We're going to kick it off, our first NFL segment, with the AFC division. We're going to break it down a little bit, go in depth with the East, North, South, and West. We're going to start it off, though, with the AFC East. First team being the Buffalo Bills. Last year they were second in the AFC East. They were 9-7. They did draft Josh Allen at draftjoshallen.com. Tyson, what do you think?
DraftJoshAllen.com. Dude's a stud. His percentages and things were not as high as we would have liked against some top-tiered, higher-tiered teams than what he was used to out there. But guy can play. We know that. He was rated the top highest quarterback for most of the offseason. Everyone thought he was going number 1 for a very, very long time. Bills are an average team, though, and I don't think Josh Allen changes that. They lost Tyrod, who I thought was a decent quarterback. They lost Cordy Glenn, who he's their best offensive lineman. And Richie Incognito retired, another experienced guy. Had some issues, a little racist out there, but he had turned it around a little bit, had a couple good seasons, but they lost him. Now, the thing that they did do, they went out and they signed a bunch of guys. They got Raphael Bush from the Lions. They went out and got Star Lutulele, another big defensive tackle. Dude's a stud, one of my favorite defensive players to watch. They went out and got Jeremy Curley, Nick O'Leary. They got Josh Allen, as we talked about, and they got Tremaine Edmonds. So they got a couple guys for Allen to throw to, and they got some defensive help, which is what they need. That was Buffalo's problem most of the time, is stopping people from scoring. Offense wasn't always the issue, except when they brought in that. Who's the other quarterback they brought in?
Nathan Peterman.
Yeah, Peterman. 5 interceptions in 2 quarters.
Yeah.
But offense wasn't really the issue when they had Tyrod in there. He was a spark, so I think getting rid of him was a mistake, but they got Josh Allen in his place. So I think they shored up a couple of the holes, but the Bills overall are a mediocre team. So.
Right, and I want to touch on the quarterback situation real quick. Tyrod definitely was a guy that I think was I don't want to say underrated, but I think he was overlooked in the NFL. He's always been a guy, even as a backup, he's been a guy that can come in, like you said, be a spark plug, be kind of an energy guy when you needed a play made. He would make it for you. His touchdown interception ratio is really low, meaning more touchdowns, less interceptions, which is what you want. But his games played aren't as high as you'd like to see for someone that's played so many years at the quarterback position. Now, he is a very, very mobile athlete, okay, especially being in that QB spot. Now, the Buffalo brings in a guy like Josh Allen, pocket passer. He's an athlete for being as tall as he is, but he's not a runner. Coming out of Wyoming, he knows how to play in those tough conditions. I think he'll fit in very well in Buffalo, but I think the Bills were looking to go in a different direction, which is why they drafted this guy. I know this is a bad comparison, kind of a Brock Osweiler type of player that we're getting here. Really tall, pocket passer, has a cannon for an arm, right? Can throw it 80 yards, no problem. But I think that he's better than Osweiler is going to turn out. We know he had that one really good year in Denver, backing up Peyton Manning, and even the year before that when he was there. The Bills, like you said, a lot of free agent acquisitions here, losing a couple guys on the offensive line. I think that's going to hurt them. The issue going on right now with LaShawn McCoy, great running back, top 5 running back in the league, if you ask me. But with those off-the-field issues, you have to wonder how that's going to affect him mentally, and if a suspension could be looming, maybe somewhere down the line. I do think the Bills are a very average team, but not close to making the playoffs this year.
When you bring up McCoy, a suspension may not just be in order either. There may be a little bit of prison or jail time involved in that. Did you guys see the pictures of what happened there?
The accusations, yeah.
Ooh, man, that was brutal. So let's stick with the AFC East. Let's move on to the next team. Let's go to the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are going to get their quarterback back this year, that Ryan Tannehill. He was out all last season
due to an
ACL injury. The Dolphins were 3rd in the AFC East with a 6-10 record. Tyson?
I think it'll be similar again this year. Even with Ryan Tannehill back, he's a good quarterback when he wants to be. The problem is he just doesn't really want to be. He's another, and don't get me wrong, I love Jay Cutler, but Ryan Tannehill reminds me a lot of Jay Cutler. He is a great quarterback that performs like an average one consistently. He is 37-40 for the 5 seasons he's played, whatnot. So he's a great average quarterback. Now, speaking of Brock Osweiler, the Dolphins also went out and got Osweiler in case Tannehill doesn't do the trick, which I'm sure he won't. They did go out and they got Danny Amendola for him. They got Frank Gore, another running back I love. Dude puts in the work, hard worker, runs hard every play.
And he had a great year for Indy last year.
Mm-hmm. I can't believe Indy got rid of him, especially because Indy needs some help too.
Yeah, they do.
They went and got rid of Frank Gore. But they lost Ndamukong Suh, they lost Lawrence Timmons, and they lost Mike Pouncey. Great center.
One of the best centers in the game.
Yep. So they lost a couple important pieces, especially on that defensive side with Sue and Lawrence Timmons. Once again, the Dolphins always find a way. Even with Jay Cutler, they went 6-10. I think they'll find a way to win some games they're not supposed to, like they always do. Even with Tannehill back, though, I still don't think they'll be a great team. I've got them somewhere around 3rd or 4th in that division again. And not 4th. We'll save that for the next couple teams. But I'll take the Dolphins at 3rd again behind the Bills. Another average team I think will perform average this season.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you get rid of your best offensive lineman or let him walk, essentially, you're not in good shape whatsoever. You already trade away your star running back in Ajayi to the championship Eagles last year, and you're looking at a guy coming back, Ryan Tannehill. You have to wonder how that ACL is going to hold up. Like you said, he's been an average guy all his career, and when an average guy has career-ending or season-ending injury, rather, That's hard to come back from. We've seen superstars do it, like Adrian Peterson tore his ACL, had the season after, had the best season of his career.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Tannehill is nowhere close to the level of Adrian Peterson, so we'll have to see what he's able to do. I think they way overpaid Amendola when they signed him from New England. That's the reason the Patriots let him go, because he wasn't worth the money. He was good, but he's not that good. Undersized guy. Great hands, though. Great hands for a receiver. I remember watching him in St. Louis when the Rams were still there. He's a guy that can get the job done. I just don't think the Dolphins have enough overall to even push for the playoffs. I have them going around the 5-11, 6-10 mark this year, finishing 3rd or 4th in the division. But we'll have to see what they're able to do. Like you said, just another average football club.
So, with that being said, the Patriots, last year, first in the AFC East, 13-3.
No surprise.
But this year they've lost Amendola. Edelman's out for the first, four games? So he's out for the first month. Brady, 41 years old. You know, Gronk, what's Gronk going to do? Nobody knows.
Gronk's going to break an arm and be out for the season again.
So with all of these ailments that the Patriots and Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft are going to face, what do you guys think they're going to do? Do you think they're going to be a 13-3 team again and win the AFC East and go to the Super Bowl, or are they going to struggle a little bit more than they normally do?
You say ailments like that's going to affect Touchdown Tommy. 41 is not an ailment for him. Dude's still in better shape than I'll ever be. You better put some respect on his name. Touchdown Tommy. No, I'm not saying the greatest of all time. I'm on the Peyton Manning bandwagon for that. But Touchdown Tommy is very close. And I mean, even with guys out and people hurt and Brady getting older, I still think they're going to be a well above average team. You still got Bill Belichick. You still got Tom Brady. All they got to do is say, hey, you undersized white guy, come play receiver. We'll get it figured out from here, and they're going to go 12-4 on accident. So they did lose Martellus Bennett, and they lost Brandon Cooks, but I don't really see that being an issue for them. They got Danny Shelton, Jason McCourty. They re-signed Rex Burkhead, who was a decent running back. They actually picked up Jeremy Hill from the Bengals. Jeremy Hill's one of my only players I like to watch for the Bengals. So I'm excited to see what happens with that. And they picked up Cordarrelle Patterson from the Raiders. Another guy, he's actually 6'4", just fast as hell. He can return the ball. He can catch the ball. Just tell him to run and he'll go find it. So even with Tom Brady getting older, all you got to do is tell him to take 5 steps back and launch it to Patterson and see what happens. And they picked up Waddle from the Chargers, offensive tackle. Another big guy, long arms, helps you with Tom Brady in that situation because he is older. He can't take the hits that he used to. So I think they kind of helped out with that, fixed some of those holes a little bit. So I got the Packs going 12-4 again this year. I don't think they'll go 13-3, but I think they'll be damn close.
So with that being said, you said Brady's not going to want. He's not going to want to take near as many hits being 41 years of age. So does that mean that the Patriots are going to be more of a ground and pound team, or do you think that he's still going to be touchdown Tommy throwing 45-yard bombs or whatever? So what's your opinion on that?
You just said it, touchdown Tommy. You got that dude, let him throw it. Let him out there, let her rip. Grip it and rip it.
Gavin looks like he's fuming over there.
I don't want to say that I'm upset about it, but I mean, Father Time's undefeated, okay? Maybe we said it 2 years ago he was done. Maybe we said it last year he was done. Eventually, one of these years, we're going to get it right.
One of these years, and I don't think it's this one.
I don't think it's this year either, but I do think, and I'm going to piggyback off what Cale said, I think that they'll be more of a running team this year. White is their running back right now. He did a great job for them last year, did a great job for them the year before that. He was a huge part of that comeback against the Falcons in the Super Bowl. And I think if you're going to go ahead and be more of a 50-50 team rather than a 60-40 team throwing the football, I think that your chances for success are a lot greater. His offensive line has never been great, but it's never been bad. It's always been average or above average, and I think right now they have an above-average offensive line. Now, when you have an above-average offensive line, you have a decent running back, and you have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and God, it kills me to say that because I'm not a fan of Tom Brady, but you got to respect the man's talent. You're looking at a recipe here for a 12-4, 13-3 football team. Mm-hmm. Now, I think you're right in saying that they'll probably be closer around 12-4 because they'll lose to somebody that they're not supposed to lose to. I had them, and I'll probably get grilled for this in the comments, when they make that trip to New York this upcoming season, I have Josh Darnold making the upset over Tom Brady. Sam Darnold seems like the kind of guy that can go ahead and steal one from old Tommy, 41 years old. But let's not forget, and I'll tell you what, we'll save that for when we get to New York in the next segment. But Bill Belichick always finds a way, and you said it. They find players that you wouldn't think would be able to play anywhere else, and they usually don't. But they work for Belichick and his system.
Shooters.
Shooters. That's a story for a different day.
That is a story for a different day.
Don't get me started on that.
But let me just say that you talk about short white guys at wide receiver. Let's not forget about this guy and Chris Hogan. Okay, he was a huge part for them last year next to Amendola. And Julian, wow, they do have a lot of white guys at receiver, don't they? He was a big part of that, and I mean, when Gronk was out, he was pretty much the primary guy. He was the go-to guy, right?
Yep.
So I think next year when Edelman comes back, even losing Amendola, I think he'll be able to slide into that number 2, number 3 spot, and kind of flourish for them. Maybe hover around the 9-10 touchdown mark, and he'll be a big part of that offense. Now, with that said, their defense, it's looked better in past years, and I think if they're going to struggle, it's going to be on that side of the ball. Their front 7, I'm really not a big fan of it, but their secondary is still solid. I think they can stop teams throwing the football, but any team that wants to put it on the ground and punch it down their throats, I think that they're looking pretty good. We all know that if you're going to beat Tom Brady, you're going to have to outscore him.
Yep.
And if you're going to do it, that's the way to do it.
Well, and like you just said their defensive backs have always been decent, which they went out and got Jason McCourty, who helps even more with that position. But agreed, their front 7's always been a little bit weak. They did lose a couple linebackers they let walk, but they signed a couple guys that weren't all that great. But they did pick up Danny Shelton, big defensive tackle. Dude's got meat. He's like 325 pounds or something. He's just a big dude. So I think he helps with that run situation. If you're going to run it, you better run it outside the tackles because he takes up a lot of space in there.
Right. It's similar to the Vince Wilfork situation before he went to the Texans. When he was there, you didn't run it up the middle. He was one of the best nose tackles, if not the best nose tackle in the game. You're not moving 400 pounds.
Right.
And like you said, this guy, he's not 400 pounds, but around the 325, 330 mark, that's a big body to try and push out of the way.
All right, so that's enough about the Patriots. It's making me sick just thinking about it. But anyway, let's go on to the New York Jets. 5-11 last year in the AFC East. They're dead last. What do you got?
Dead last again. Jets, Jets. I would love to see the Jets do great, but it's not going to happen. They lost Nick Mangold, their center. He retired.
My favorite offensive lineman in the league, by the way. I love that guy.
He was a stud.
Yeah.
And they signed Courtney Upshaw, defensive tackle. That's basically the only 2 major names that they dealt with this offseason. They didn't really gain anybody. They didn't really lose anybody. And I don't think their draft picks were all that impressive. So, I mean, it's going to be another bad season for the Jets, in my opinion, just because of the they didn't really make any moves on either side of the ball. They didn't try and help themselves out. They're just going to stick with what they got and see what happens. So I've got the Jets at 4-12 this year, losing one more game. So I don't see the Jets having a good season at all.
Man, 4-12. How can you regress when you pick up a guy like Sam Darnold? When you have receivers like Curley and Decker, and they have their tight end whose last name
they don't have Curley anymore. He left.
Where did he go?
He went to the Bills.
He said that.
Jeremy Curley went to the Bills.
All right, well, maybe 4-12. Not looking. No, I'm just kidding. Eric Decker's still a stud, and they have their tight end whose last name I cannot pronounce, nor will I try. But he's a stud. I'm telling you, Sam Darnold. This is a guy who at USC he was kind of reminds me a lot of Brett Favre. Okay, I'm not saying he is Brett Favre, but he's got that personality. He's a gunslinger, and he will take chances. Now, when you got a guy that takes chances, he can make or break your team. Now, 4-12, it's looking like very plausible for this team, but I also think this is a team that could very well go 7-9. I don't see why not. Sam Darnold, he can sling it, he can run with it. He's very intelligent when looking down the field and reading his options, reading the defense, how they're set up. He's very good at audibling. Now, USC, you could say, played in a so-so division out there in the Pac-12, but I think when it comes to football, they're probably in the top 2, top 3, right next to the Big Ten. Big Ten football has always been up there, but that's besides the point. I had him going 6-10. I thought 4-12 was a little disrespectful. I think Sam Darnold's too much of a winner. That's why I had.
Boy, let me tell you what. Sam Darnold is on the opposite spectrum of the winner spectrum. Baker Mayfield is a winner. There's a reason.
Here we go.
There's a reason that Sam Darnold didn't get picked first, and there's a reason that he was up there for so many weeks. And every week I said Sam Darnold is not a number one quarterback.
Tyson.
He's not even close. Dude is a loser.
Tyson, are we talking about Cleveland right now? Are we talking about the AFC North right now?
We
will get there.
In a minute.
I'm not comparing Sam Darnold to Baker Mayfield. I'm talking strictly about the Jets and their system.
And I'm telling you that Sam Darnold is a loser.
He's a loser.
How many quarterbacks have we seen come out of USC and not perform? USC is a above average team in a below average conference. Matt Leinart won the Calder Trophy, the MVP of college football, and came out and went like 20-40 before he finally was out of the league. Mark Sanchez, another guy, butt fumble.
Went to the AFC Championship game twice. You're going to tell me that Sam Darnold is not better than Mark Sanchez?
I'm just saying USC breeds losers.
Listen. Okay, look, I understand what you're saying, and yes, maybe they do because Mark Sanchez is now a joke of the NFL after the butt fumble. But
before the butt fumble,
he went to the AFC Championship game twice. He took down Tom Brady and the Patriots in the divisional round.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell me if Tom Brady got beat by a loser,
man, everybody gets lucky once.
They went twice, Tyson.
Okay.
So they get lucky twice?
I guess.
You could blame that game on Rex Ryan. He's not the greatest coach in the world.
No.
I'm not saying that Mark Sanchez is great by any means, but the fact that you're going to tell me that Sam Darnold is on the same level as Mark Sanchez is it's unfathomable. I can't sit here.
I'm just saying with the pieces he's got around him and his losing nature, I just don't see him going over 4-12 this year. I'll give him 5-11 again.
Unbelievable.
But he's a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterbacks generally don't do very well.
The Buffalo Bills are a better football team than the New York Jets.
Yeah,
I'll agree.
The Miami Dolphins are a better football team than the New York Jets.
The Bills got Josh Allen, and that guy is a winner.
And
so,
Josh Allen actually went.
He played at Wyoming.
Yeah.
Yep.
What kind of competition did he have? Name one team.
None. He played North Dakota State.
Okay. So how much of a winner can you give him credit for?
Yeah. DraftJoshAllen.com.
Oh my goodness!
The thing with Josh Allen though, real quick, is that he can sling it.
Yep,
he was one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks in this draft class.
He was.
I'm not going to disagree with that, but the thing is he can throw the ball 50 yards. I'm fine with that.
We're looking at a 6'6" Jay Cutler.
Okay, we're bringing a little more charisma into the league here.
Oh my goodness, I can't buy that. Move on.
Let's get out of this topic here because we'll sit here for hours and debate this.
He already brought it up. Let's move on.
Let's real quick. Let's rank them just real quick, 1 through 4 in the AFC East. Tyson,
Pats, Bills, Dolphins, Jets.
Gav.
Patriots, Jets, Bills, Dolphins.
Oh, gosh. Here we go. We're moving on to the AFC North. We got the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know. Is Harbaugh still coaching there?
Sure is.
All right. So that's the only person I know with the Ravens organization. Last season, they were 9-7, second in the AFC North. What do you think, Tyson?
The Ravens, they ended up losing Jeremy Maclin. They lost Danny Woodhead. They lost Ladarius Webb. They ended up drafting Lamar Jackson, one of my favorite picks that the Ravens
dropped way too low.
Dropped way too low.
We
can agree on that.
You guys agree on.
Lamar Jackson is a stud.
This was a steal for Baltimore. Lamar Jackson was a steal of the draft.
And they picked up Willie Snead, and they got RG3 in case they're feeling a little froggy and wanted to throw a guy in to get injured for a year. But the Ravens, to me, another one of those teams, didn't make enough moves to progress from where they were at last year. They got Willie Snead to help Flacco out. They got Lamar Jackson, but Lamar Jackson's not going to get a chance till too late in the season because they've still got Joe Flacco and they're paying him way too much money, so they're not going to sit him down. The Ravens are a team that didn't progress enough for me, but they didn't really regress. So they were 9-7 last year. I think they'll find a way again to win nine games. They'll go 9-7 again.
No, I completely agree. I'm going 9-7 as well because, like you said, they always find a way to do it. I think Joe Flacco is way overrated for what he's getting paid. He won that Super Bowl, but it wasn't because of him. We can tell you that right now. Okay, maybe he played okay in the Super Bowl, and you can tell me that he played okay in the playoffs. What has he done since getting his money? Absolutely nothing, which is why I think the Ravens are looking to go in a new direction by drafting Lamar Jackson, is because if Flacco ends up taking this team, 2-3, 1-4 in the beginning of the season, they'll look to go ahead and switch things around real quick. Baltimore also, one addition that you forgot to mention was Crabtree from Oakland.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that this is an interesting pickup.
Mediocre receiver.
Yeah. Well, I think he's slightly above average. I would say that he's mediocre because of his attitude he brings toward the game. We saw that fight he had with Aqib Talib in Denver this year. That pretty much speaks for itself. If you haven't seen it, go look it up and type in, Crabtree Talib fight. It's the first thing that pops up. Go ahead and watch that and tell me if he doesn't belong on this Ravens squad, because they always seem to go for the thugs, right? I don't know what it is, but that seems to be a destination for him. One thing that I am curious, though, is do you think that they should have maybe sweetened the deal to acquire Des Bryant, who's still a free agent? Because we know they offered him a 3-year, I think it was $27 million contract, and he turned it down. Do you think that maybe they should have sweetened that deal? Maybe, 1 year, 2 year deal, maybe a little bit more money. Is Des worth it?
I think Dez is worth it, and this is coming from a Cowboys fan. I wish the Cowboys would have paid him or not cut him. Des Bryant is a guy, he's had a couple off seasons. I'll give everybody that. He's had a couple off seasons. But they're not going to regret it when he starts throwing up that X and gets 12 touchdowns a year.
Des caught it.
Amen. But Dez doesn't want a 3-year deal right now. He doesn't care about the $9 million a year. He wants one year, $4 million to prove himself. The same as Boogie out there in Golden State. He wants a 1-year deal with a chance to prove himself, to say that he can still play, because that dude has worked his tail off since the Cowboys cut him. He'd been working hard when he was still with the Cowboys. So I think the Ravens absolutely should have sweetened that pot. It gets them a veteran guy, big hands, big frame, incredible speed, and he is the biggest red zone threat next to Rob Gronkowski in this league. He's got like 67 touchdowns compared to Gronkowski's 68 in the red zone since they've both been in the league. It's insane. Dude is the biggest red zone threat out there, not named Rob Gronkowski, who's 6'7" and 260 pounds. They absolutely should have tried and pushed a little bit harder for Des Bryant. He's a guy that brings a lot of emotion to the game, to your team, gets guys fired up. I think he wouldn't do anything but good on that Ravens squad.
Moving on, Cincinnati, 7-9 in the AFC North last year. Andy Dalton, I like Andy Dalton.
Red Rifle.
I like Andy Dalton. They ended up finishing third. What do you think?
Prison Squad. Speaking of a team that always finds the thugs, the Bengals. They used to be one of my favorite teams to watch. I didn't mind that they had all these thugs.
Back in the Vontez Burfict days.
When Carson Palmer was in his prime, these teams were great to watch. The
so fun.
Terrell Owens and Chad Ochocinco.
Bengals, I think they're going to regress this year a lot. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the AFC. They lost Jeremy Hill, their running back. They've still got Gio Bernard, but I actually liked Jeremy Hill better than Gio Bernard. Even Gio was their starter. I liked watching Hill run. They did end up signing Morris Boringer, how you say that German dude's name? 6'4", tight end, big dude, big hands. They ended up getting Matt Barkley. They re-signed Tyler Eifert.
Which Eifert, I think I love his game. If he played for someone else, he'd be a stud. Oh, yeah. I'm sad that he's stuck in that organization.
And the Bengals actually picked up Cordy Glenn, who I said earlier was the Bills' best offensive lineman. So they definitely helped themselves out a little bit, re-signing Eifert, picking up Cordy Glenn. But other than that, they didn't really do anything. And they're getting in a division that's harder and harder to compete in. All these teams seem to squeak out a couple wins, but none of them actually do super well besides the Steelers over the last couple years. So I've got the Bengals losing a few more games this year, dropping down to 5-11.
I'm not too nice when it comes to dealing with Cincinnati. I got them going 3-13. I think this is the new dumpster fire of the AFC North. I think Cleveland has finally risen above that spot, and the Bengals are going to drop down there. I think this is the year that Marvin Lewis finally gets fired after, a decade of mediocrity and, first-round playoff exits. So, with that said, I really don't have too much more to add. I mean, they didn't do anything, like you said, other than add an offensive lineman. I think Andy Dalton's been an average quarterback. I feel like he could flourish anywhere else and be at least a stud, give him a chance. But, yeah, like you said, they lost their running back. Bernard he's so-so. I mean, he's not the worst running back, but there's definitely better ones out there that not on the market. But, you question, would you rather have Frank Gore or Giovanni Bernard at this point? It's pretty
Frank
much
Gore's old, but I pick Gore every time.
It's pretty much a toss-up at this point. So, being in that division, I see them getting swept by just about everyone in this division. I mean, Pittsburgh's going to sweep them. Baltimore's going to sweep them. They might break even with Cleveland if they're at Cincinnati. But, again, that's even a toss-up. So, if you lose 6 games right there, you're going to tell me that they're going to even come close to breaking even in the other 10. I can't see it, so I got them going 3-13.
Moving on, this is going to get pretty interesting here. The Cleveland Browns, dead last, AFC North, 0-16. Drafted Baker Mayfield, Tyson's boy. What do you think?
So earlier I said the Ravens were going to go 9-7. I picked the Browns this year to go 9-7, win the tiebreaker with the Ravens, and get the 6th seed in the playoffs.
Oh, my.
It's a little bit out there. I know that.
You're talking about out there. You're
going
on the
from 0-16 to a winning record and a 6th seed.
Talk about worst to first.
Worst to 6th.
6th.
But all they really lost was I'm looking at the wrong team. They lost to Sean Kaiser. They traded him off.
He didn't do anything for him.
Exactly.
He didn't win a single game.
And Joe Thomas retired. One of my favorite dudes to watch in the NFL. The best offensive tackle ever.
Yeah,
dude,
ever.
Mad respect to Joe Thomas. Sad to see him retire. Good for him, though. Came what he did to do, got it done, and destroyed.
I want to add one quick fun fact about Joe Thomas. Only missed one game his entire career.
Yep.
One game.
And it wasn't until his last season.
That was incredible. He said, does he have the longest streak for most games started?
Yep.
Yeah. Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Especially at such a grueling position like that, playing left tackle. Hardest position in the game, and dude played every single snap of every single game for 10 years. Insane. Now, the Browns did sign Nick Chubb. They got him in the draft. My favorite running back in the draft this year.
Coming out of Georgia, right?
Yep, besides Saquon Barkley, coming out of Georgia. Nick Chubb, stud. They got Michael Kendricks, linebacker, played for the Eagles in that Super Bowl championship.
Well, they also signed the guy from Ohio State, the cornerback.
Denzel Ward.
Denzel Ward,
yep.
yeah.
Number 4 overall.
Highest rated corner in the draft.
Yep. They got Carlos Hyde at the running back position. He's played a couple more years, but I still hope Chubb runs over him. They picked up Demarius Randall, Jarvis Landry, guy from the Dolphins, stud receiver. They got Tyrod, and they still got Jabril Peppers, who I'm excited to see kind of bust through this year after having a mediocre year last year.
And guess who got reinstated? Josh Gordon.
Amen. I have been a Josh Gordon fan since this dude came in the league. Absolutely stud if he can stay off the weeds.
Stay off the weeds.
I love Josh Gordon. He is explosive. Anytime you need to play, throw it up, and Josh Gordon will find it. So they got Nick Chubb. They got Baker Mayfield, who, if you want to talk about a winner, this guy is it. He'll come into Ohio State and he'll plant his flag in front of your home crowd. He doesn't care about nothing. He is out there to come, steal your girl, throw that ball in the end zone, do what he's got to do. Baker Mayfield is a stud. I love him. He's a little bit undersized. That being said, dude still knows how to win.
He's a rock star.
Yep.
He's a white Russell Wilson.
Amen.
That's what people don't understand is that they underestimated Russell Wilson when he came in the league. And if they're going to do the same thing with Baker, I mean, when Russell was playing, he was playing in a better division.
I'm underestimating Mayfield because I feel like Tyrod deserves to start.
And he will start. I guarantee you the Browns do start him, but when Tyrod Taylor goes 0-3, they're going to stick Mayfield in the backfield.
That ain't going to happen. Tyrod Taylor's not going to go 0-3.
Even with Tyrod Taylor, I think this team could still win 6 games.
Oh, absolutely.
Better than last year.
If you put Baker in there, I think they win 9.
Oh,
even with Tyrod, I think they win 6, though. This team has made so many moves. They went out and got so many guys.
This is not the same Cleveland Browns that we've seen.
No, absolutely not.
No.
They shored up every position. The only people they've lost over the last 2 years that were reputable players were Joe Hayden at cornerback, who went to the Steelers, and they lost Joe Thomas to retirement.
If this team that Cleveland has constructed right now dressed up in a different uniform, everyone will be talking about them differently. It's all about the Cleveland curse. Yeah. Okay, this is a team that I will say is capable of winning 9 games, but I think they're only capable of winning 9 games if Mayfield starts the season. Because, and this is no disrespect to Tyrod, because Tyrod's a great quarterback. I raved about him earlier. I would love to have him on my team, but he's getting up there, and he's a mobile quarterback. Mobile quarterbacks don't last very long in this league. Okay, the only exception to that rule I would say was Michael Vick when he was with Philadelphia when he made his comeback.
Until he went to jail and then he came back and he wasn't the same guy.
Right. Well, even when he came back, he took the Eagles to the playoffs, right?
Yep.
So I mean, that was fine.
What about Cam Newton? He's pretty mobile.
But he's also
taking a hard turn off in the last couple of years.
6'4", like 260.
260.
He's a big man. Okay, and he's slowed down the past couple of years there in Carolina, which we'll talk about them on Friday. But no, I think the Browns. I got them going a solid 7-9. I think they're going to lose a few games early on. But I think that they'll bring it back. And I think if you go 7-9, even 6-10, Browns fans are going to be ecstatic because that'll be the most games that they've won in a decade.
Welcome to the dog pound.
So, and I love their fans because through all of this crap that they've been through these past 18 years now, they're finally going to have a team that is going to be fun to watch. I mean, I'm genuinely excited to see this Cleveland Browns team next year. I'm a Chicago fan, so I will definitely be tuning into some Browns games. I want to see how this team fits together. I'm real excited about that dynamic duo of Landry and Gordon, and I'm really excited to see how they're really going to put it together. That defense is looking stout, and this is what gets me. The defense has always been there. They've always been an average defense, but now that their offense, I think that they're probably going to be top 15 this year. They're gonna be looking really, really good, and I'm excited to see this team.
Moving on, Pittsburgh, the Steelers, 13-3 last year. They for the season, first in the AFC North. Big Ben's getting older, kind of declining a little bit, and I feel like he doesn't throw a pass until about halfway through the season. So, at all, period, even throughout training camp. But anyway, they didn't have much competition in the AFC North. The most competition they would have been who? The Ravens, in my opinion.
Over the last couple of years, yeah.
So, with that being said, how do you think they're going to pan out this season?
This season is solely reliant on Big Ben. If he can stay healthy and get the ball out of his hands before 10 seconds like usual, so he's not taking all the hits that he took in previous years. Ben Roethlisberger has been possibly the most hit quarterback over since he entered the league. Dude takes a hit on just about every play, whether he's thrown it or not. But I think it's solely reliant on Big Ben. That being said, I've got the Steelers going 12-4 because I think he'll stay healthy and I think he'll be able to perform well. The Steelers have finally got a good offensive line to protect him this year. They have shored up their defensive backs, which has been their biggest issue. Is they can't stop guys from running right past them. They got rid of Gay and Mitchell in their secondary, who were two of their worst defenders over the last couple of years, and for some reason they just kept on staying there. They ended up signing J.J. Wilcox, a good defensive back, and Justin Hunter, a receiver. Those was the two biggest name guys that I saw. Justin Hunter played for the Titans a couple years ago, one of the best receivers for the Titans at the time. And he's not a good replacement for Martavis Bryant, but he'll do the trick. I mean, they still got Antonio Brown to throw to. They still got Le'Veon Bell in the backfield. They still got Big Ben. They've got a good offensive line finally, like I said, and their defense is strong.
They may not have Bell much longer after this season because they didn't put a franchise tag on him, which I feel like Pittsburgh made a very big mistake by not giving him a franchise tag.
I just don't. Let me touch on that real quick. I think that, and I'm going to play devil's advocate and say that I'm going to side with Pittsburgh on this one because Le'Veon Bell, running backs have a shorter lifespan in the NFL than any other position.
Yep.
Okay, they're not going to give a guy a 4 or 5 year deal for what are they going to pay a running back $20-25 million, especially in one that's getting up there in age. Mm-hmm. By the time the contract over, he's going to be 32, 33 years old.
Right.
He's out of the league. They don't want to give up that much money because running backs last maybe half the time is really any other position besides a quarterback.
The average span of NFL running backs is 3.2 years.
Right. So that says, in a great one, you might get 5 or 6. So with that said, he's already given them 3 or 4 great years at the running back position. If he has a couple left, he can go do it for someone else, is pretty much what they're saying. We'll show you the door. Thank you very much. But I don't blame Le'Veon for trying to get his money. Okay, he
deserves it.
Clearly been a top 3 running back the past 4 years. That's undoubtable. But I mean, he is pretty much the heart and soul of that Steelers offense if Antonio Brown's not getting it done, which, I mean, how often does that happen? I mean, he's a stud himself. But like you said, I think this is going to come down to Big Ben. I think Le'Veon he's either going to play really well to show what he still has, or he's going to try and coast through the season so he can sign with someone else for big money. Mm-hmm. With that said, I agree. 12-4 looks about right. I think they're going to walk away with this division pretty easily and probably grab the 2 seed. Maybe the 1 seed in the AFC. We'll have to see. But that's really all I got on the Steelers. They're great. They're a great organization.
I think with Le'Veon Bell, I feel for both sides of that argument. The Steelers want a guy, but like you said, running backs don't last very long. He's a great running back, and they're willing to pay him. The latest offer, I think, was 4 years and $60 million or something. It came out to roughly like $17.5 million a year. But Le'Veon Bell's looking for 7 years and $20 million a year,
guaranteed.
Right.
He wants a Kirk Cousins deal,
which he deserves money for sure. Dude touches the ball more than any other player on the field on any team. He's good for almost 200 yards a game between catching and receiving every game. absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, I would say he's the best running back in the league, for sure.
Dude, he's absolutely great, but he's asking a lot at this point. Especially, they don't know what he's got left. If he could go without getting suspended 2 games or getting hurt for 2 games, he's had injuries, he's had suspensions for multiple different reasons. He hasn't been on the field a full year yet. Maybe he's been on the field 1 full year, but the rest of the years he's had to sit out a couple games. So a guy that's already got injury history, suspension history, they're not going to pay him all this money to sit on the bench for a couple games. If they're going to pay him, they want him to be on the field 16 games every year for the 7 years that they sign him, and I just don't think that's going to happen. The Steelers have one of the best organizations in football, and I think they're smarter than that. But I feel for Le'Veon Bell. Dude deserves to get paid. He's going to go somewhere and get paid.
Go ahead and rank them 1 through 4. Who do you got, Gavin?
I have Pittsburgh walking away with the division. Then I got Baltimore, Cleveland, and Cincinnati.
I got Steelers, Ravens, Browns tie. Browns take the tiebreaker, and Bengals at 4th.
Moving on, AFC South. First team, Houston Texans. They're 4th in the AFC South. Dead last, 4-12. Deshaun Watson is coming back, though, this year.
I think that's your key. You said it right there. Deshaun Watson will be back. Before he went down with that injury last year, he was the front-runner favorite for Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year. And he was in the talks for MVP standings for a while. They also re-signed Jonathan Joseph. They went out and got Sammy Coates from the Bills. They signed the Honey Badger, probably my favorite offseason acquisition of the offseason this year. And they got Brandon Weeden, another experienced quarterback, not super great, not bad. A guy to fill in if Deshaun Watson does go down again, who can coach them to the playoffs. But the key, like you said, Deshaun Watson coming back. He played outstanding last year. He was one of the most dynamic players college football has seen over the last few years. And he was absolutely outstanding. Now, the Texans didn't really lose anybody either. So they signed a bunch of people, and they didn't really lose anyone. So I've got the Texans flipping their season around in a major way. Last year they were 4-12. I've got them going 10-6 this year, and taking their division. I think they'll swipe it from the Jags and the Titans.
One key piece that I think is going to come down to is DeAndre Hopkins. Their wideout. He's a stud. He was a Pro Bowler the last couple years. Like you said, but the main piece is going to be Deshaun Watson. But on the offensive side of things, Hopkins is going to be a big part of that offense. I said it before he got drafted to Houston. When the Bears traded up to the 2nd pick, I said they better take Deshaun Watson because this guy's the best quarterback in the draft. No disrespect to Mitchell Trubisky because I love Trubisky. But Watson from Clemson, after you watched him in the championship game, you knew that this guy was championship-level talent.
Yep. And
that any team could have drafted this guy number 1. And the fact that he fell to where he did, I was blown away.
I can't believe the Bears didn't take him.
Yeah, believe me. I was sitting there on draft night kind of scratching my head, but at least we got a quarterback.
Yeah.
That was the main thing because I was not going to go into the season with Glennon, and that's it.
That was one of the worst draft day decisions I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Not that Trubisky was a bad pick, but they traded up one spot, gave up more than that to get a guy that the Redskins weren't going to take at number 2 anyway.
Niners,
that's right. It blew my mind. I tried to figure that out for the rest of the weekend. I like Mitch Trubisky, but boy, did the Bears lose on that situation.
Oh, they did. They did. I think that Deshaun Watson is the complete package. You know, if you're going to be a mobile quarterback, you got to have the arm. He reminds me a lot of Michael Vick, but he doesn't have the Michael Vick level.
He ain't got the swag.
Athlete, you know. He's. I don't think he's as quick, and I don't think he's as sharp as a cutter as Vick was.
Nope.
And he's not a run-first quarterback. This is a guy that can drop back in the pocket, and I'm pretty sure. Check me on that. I'm pretty sure his touchdown interception ratio was almost 3-1 before he went down, which was nothing short of incredible in a rookie season. That's something that all Pro Bowlers look to try to achieve. Even Tom Brady hasn't achieved that, but maybe a couple times. Now, I'm not comparing him to Tom Brady, but I expect him to have a hell of a season this upcoming year. I also have the Texans going 10-6. Their defense is stout.
Yep.
Their secondary is underrated, one of the best in the league. And then they go out and add the guy from Arizona. Forget it, Matthew, right?
Yeah, Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger.
Yeah.
And they got J.J. Watt, who we know is the best player in the defensive side of the NFL.
Yeah, he's the greatest motor I've ever seen.
Yep.
He reminds me of he's like the white John Randall.
Need to see him get healthy too, though.
Yeah, which that's been the biggest knock on him. But Like I said, he's like the white John Randall. That guy was crazy. Gave you everything he had on every play.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know who I'm talking about, Minnesota Vikings, John Randall highlights, go look it up on YouTube. One of the funniest things I've ever seen. But yeah, I got him going 10-6. Nothing else too much to say about this Houston Texans team. I mean, they got a great up and coming quarterback. They got a stout defense. 10-6, winning the division.
You were talking about the receiver earlier, DeAndre Hopkins. I hope they can find someone to put on the other side of him, because teams have learned. DeAndre Hopkins is a baller, but he's a little bit shorter than you'd like, but he's got incredible speed. I would like for them to finally find someone to put across from him, so teams aren't just double teaming him on every play, because that really hurts their chances when they can't get the ball to him. So I think the key is J.J. Watt coming back healthy, Deshaun Watson staying healthy, and finding someone else to throw to besides Hopkins.
Second team, AFC South, the Colts. Luck's coming back. That's about it. What do you think?
Yeah, they said Luck was coming back last year too.
He hasn't thrown a football in like almost a full year or something like that now.
He's throwing as of a couple weeks ago.
So he is throwing now?
This is great news. This is great news for
He hasn't gotten that far. Thank God.
I think Luck is very similar to kind of the Kawhi Leonard situation. In the fact, I think he could have played last year, but he didn't. I think he was healthy long before they said he was healthy. I think his head wasn't in it, and I think that could be a major problem coming into this season. I still don't think his head's in it. He already got a contract. He's already getting paid. I don't think he cares if he plays or not. I would love to see Andrew Luck succeed. He's one of the greatest fourth quarter quarterbacks of all time. But I just don't know if his head is completely in it. They went out and signed Eric Ebron, big tight end from the Lions. They got Matt Slauson, Quentin Nelson, the big guard out of Notre Dame in the draft to help protect Andrew Luck.
That was a great pick.
Great pick. Because that's exactly what they need. They need Andrew Luck to stop getting hit. I think that's messing with him a little bit too, as he has been hit so many times.
Throttled.
Yeah. And yeah, not only is he getting hit, but he's getting pummeled every play. But they lost Dante Moncrief, one of their fast wide receivers, out on the outside, but that's about it.
They still have T.Y. Hilton, and he's a great player.
T.Y. Hilton, another one of those guys like DeAndre Hopkins, though.
Right.
He hasn't had anyone across from him, so teams just double team him.
Well,
and
they have a tight end there, Allen. I can't remember his first name.
Dwayne.
Dwayne Allen. He's a stud. I think he's a great tight end. I wouldn't say he's top 10 or anything, but he's definitely in the top half of the league.
Yeah.
So
I think he's getting older, though. They don't throw to him as much as they should. I'm glad they went out and got Ebron, a good replacement for Allen, and to give Allen a break.
I just don't like Ebron. I think with this, and the Colts are going to have to deal with it, is his attitude.
Mm-hmm.
If they can keep him in check, I think this is a good signing. But you're playing with fire, I think.
Right. But the Colts, I might get grilled a little bit for this, especially I know we've got some Colts fans around here. But the Colts were 4-12 last year. I've got them going 6-10 this year.
With luck.
With luck, not much better.
See, I got to touch on the Andrew Luck situation. Is I don't know if I can grill a man for his psyche, because we're not inside his head. Same thing with Kawhi Leonard. I might think he's healthy, but if something is wrong, I don't know. I'm not him, right? So we go to Andrew Luck. The shoulder situation. Listen, if you're a quarterback and you can't throw the ball, you can't throw the ball. All right. If you're not 100%, you're not 100%. I'm going to take a quote out of Allen Iverson's book and say, if I'm hurt, I'm hurt. Okay. Andrew Luck is a guy who probably didn't want to come in last season because he knew the Colts were going to suck, and suck they did. So coming into this year, they went out and added a couple pieces. Yes, they lost Moncrief, but T.Y. Hilton's a guy that's improved every year he's been in the league. They also have Fedorowicz. I forgot about him on the other side of Allen at tight end when they run that dual tight end set. I really like that situation that they have there. Offensive line, Quentin Nelson. He's already NFL ready. He was NFL ready when he went into college. That is a big boy. If he can help protect Andrew Luck's weak side, being on the left side of the offensive line, I think that they're in good shape. I always thought Andrew Luck was a top 10 quarterback in this league when healthy, and if he is 100%, I don't see why the Colts can't break even. I got him going 8-8 this year.
Coming in next, Jacksonville, my guy Blake Bortles winning the AFC South, first in the AFC South actually. 10-6.
One more thing on Andrew Luck.
Oh boy!
I just want to say I played games with broken arm, 2 high ankle sprains, concussions, and I wasn't even getting paid to do it. I understand shoulder injury for a quarterback is it's legit. I get that you can't throw like you can't throw, but at some point, I mean, I don't know. Even if your team's gonna suck, you got to go out there and at least show you care, especially for $25 million a year, man. you're literally getting paid to play football. I think at some point you got to realize that and go out and play football, whether you're 100% okay or if you're 85% okay. 85%'s a B.
Let me say one thing. Were you taking hits from NFL players?
No, I wasn't.
No.
I get that. I'm also not getting paid $25 million a year to do it.
Right, and I understand us being average Joes, right? We don't do this for a living. We would probably weigh the money against the consequences, and we'd probably take the money, right?
Uh-huh.
So I get that aspect of it, but at the same time, I mean, I'm not getting hit by a 325-pound defensive lineman.
I did do that.
I can't imagine doing that a week after week, already knowing that I'm not 100%.
I wasn't expecting him to come back by week 8 or something, or week 5 like they had predicted. But I think at some point during the season, week 10, week 14, I would have liked to see him just play a couple games, maybe get him up out of 4-12, get him to 6-10 last year.
I think they were just playing it safe. And if I'm the organization and I have my star piece,
it's your franchise quarterback. I get that.
That's what you got to do, and I can see both sides of that.
Right. Okay, now we can
talk about the Jaguars.
Proceed.
We can
Blake Bortles, my guy. He's going to take Jacksonville all the way. I feel it. Undefeated, 16-0. Let's go, Blake Bortles.
Everything I've read that talks about the Jaguars so far this year says that they've got everything they need to go 16-0 or damn close.
Many things wrong with that statement.
Yeah, agreed. They lost their entire receiving core. They lost Allen Robinson. They lost Allen Hurns. And don't get me wrong, I am a big fan of Bortles. I think the dude can play, but I think he's an average quarterback. Before last year, the Jaguars have not been a good team, and it's been his responsibility. They had the pieces to be a good team. The thing I think helps them out this year is their defense. It's stout.
It's the best in the league.
They signed DJ Hayden at cornerback. They picked up Dante Moncrief, who the Colts got rid of, help out Marquise Lee a little bit on the offensive side. They re-signed Marquise Lee, and they picked up Jenkins, another cornerback. So I think they've got a chance to do some good things, but I don't think they're going anywhere close to 16-0. I'll give them 10-6. Same record as last year. I think they lose the tiebreaker with the Texans and get second in their division.
I had them going 9-7, so pretty close. I just think, listen, I'll tell you what, Cale, I love Blake Bortles because he is your average Joe playing in the NFL, which is why he's so... Go ahead.
Blake Bortles said if he wasn't in the NFL, he'd be working construction, smoking cigarettes, and you cannot knock a guy for saying that. I love that.
Dude knows what he's good at, using his hands.
Absolutely.
He's a big physical guy.
Absolutely. And him playing the quarterback position in the NFL, especially being in Florida, that's got to be a great gig, playing in Jacksonville. But no, he's just, I think he's a below average quarterback, if I'm being honest. I just think he's a guy that turns the football over too much. He's too inaccurate, and I think that Leonard Fournette and those receivers made plays for him when he couldn't, and that's the reason they made it to the championship game. Go ahead.
I don't follow football near as closely as Tyson does or you do, but didn't Blake Bortles take down the Steelers this season in the playoffs? They did take him down, right?
Well, Big Ben took down the Steelers in the playoffs.
Well, that don't matter, but Blake Bortles still got the W, right?
He did.
Exactly. So he took down Big Ben, and that's fine with me.
I'll even give you the argument he should have beaten New England in that game.
What happened with that Steelers game is that the Steelers' defensive backs are trash. And like we talked about earlier, they are awful. All that happened is that Blake Bortles out-threw trash.
Perfect. That's all it takes to win.
He had 3 outstanding wide receivers last year. All he had to do was lob it to him. I think the final score of that game was like 44-40 or something like that.
45-42.
Yeah, 45-42. It was close. And Big Ben wasn't working with much on the defensive side, at least his defensive secondary last year. So all Blake Bortles had to do was drop back, hold the ball for less than 5 seconds, and launch it, and it was a touchdown.
Well, all Big Ben had to do was throw one less of his 5 interceptions on the day, and he would have won the game. So
you know what? He threw 5 interceptions, and they still scored 42 points
in 3
and only
quarters.
Lost by 3.
Man.
Not that I'm a big Ben Roethlisberger fan or anything, but I don't think Blake Bortles – that game was crap. There was not one good thing. Both offenses, it looks like they played really good, but they were just playing crappy defenses, which is weird to say because they're
Jags, both great defenses.
Yeah, they're both phenomenal defense. It just so happens that everything went right for the offenses and everything went wrong for the defenses. So yes, he took down Big Ben and the Steelers, but I don't know.
Lightning will not strike twice in Jacksonville. I can tell you that right now.
Oh yeah, it is.
I got them going 9-7. They're going to pick up the 6th seed in the AFC and pray that they can get out of the wild card spot. This
16-0, baby. Moving on. Tennessee Titans. Marcus Mariota. They were 9-7 last season. Second in AFC South.
I've got them third this year. I got them going 8-8. They lost DeMarco Murray to retirement. Their running back. They've got Derrick Henry to replace him, so they didn't really lose much on that.
Heisman winner.
Yeah, not much for signings either.
It's just if is Henry going to be able to pick up as many reps as Murray had?
Yeah, Derrick Henry's never really been a 3-down back.
Yeah.
But they signed Blaine Gabbert, decent backup, and then nothing special. And they signed Rashaan Evans, their first round pick this year, big linebacker out of Alabama.
They need it.
Which he was another guy that slipped way further than he should have. I thought this guy should have been top 10. But really, that's the only thing good that happened for the Titans so far this offseason. Nothing good or bad has happened for them, more or less. And so I just don't think they've done anything to progress, but they haven't done anything to drop off drastically. So I've got them losing one more game, going 8-8 instead of 9-7 this year.
I don't know what's going on with Marcus Mariota, because when he came into the league, I was expecting him to be the next best thing. Coming out of Oregon, I thought he played phenomenal, but he hasn't done it. I mean, they say they won that playoff game last year. Well, let me finish this real quick. Kansas City, they choked that away. Let's be clear about that. And then you could pretty much see it all come unwound when they played the Patriots and losing by I think 30-something points. Yep. I mean, this is a team that really just doesn't. They don't belong in the playoffs, and they're nowhere near it right now. I think with Andrew Luck coming back, that's going to be a couple more games that they drop because they swept the Colts last year. I think Jacksonville, that defense, Mariota's always struggled against them. They're only getting better. Their offense has regressed, I think, but I still think they're enough to sweep the Titans. The Texans, with Deshaun Watson coming back, they'll sweep the Titans. So you're already looking at 6 losses. This is similar to the Cincinnati situation to me. I have them dropping all the way to 3-13. Everyone's getting older. They didn't do anything to get better, while everyone else in their division added pieces. That's probably a little harsh. They probably could end up around the 6-10, 5-11 mark, but their schedule is a little tougher than last year. I just don't see it happening. 3-13 for Tennessee.
Big drop off from a winning team, playoff winning team this year, going down to 3-13. Now I don't like the Titans. I've always been pretty critical of them. I think they've always had pieces to be better than what they were, but they're always just not good. So 9-7 was surprising for me last year, but I didn't have them dropping off too much.
Well, I thought they definitely overperformed last year. I thought they should have been around the 7-9, 6-10 mark, because they had a couple games there where they definitely scored more than they were supposed to. And they play really well at home. Mm-hmm. You know, they're a good home team. I mean, like I said, if they would go 5-11 or 6-10, I won't be surprised, because they'll probably flip-flop a couple games that I have here. But 3-13, that's what I see. That's what they should win. I guess that's what I have. That's what they should win. They'll probably win a couple more than that.
Fair. All right.
AFC West. Well, let me just rephrase this before I get too far along. What do you guys got? What do you guys got in the AFC South?
I've got Texans and Jags on top at 10-6. Texans take the tiebreaker. I've got the Colts coming in at third, or the Titans coming in at third, and the Colts at last place.
I've got Houston on top, 10-6. Jaguars coming at second, 9-7. Indianapolis 8-8, third, and then Tennessee bringing up the rear, 3-13. Welcome to the dumpster fire of the AFC South.
All right, moving on. AFC West. Last year they were 5-11, fourth in the division. Denver. What do you got, Tyson?
Big loss for them. They lost Trevor Siemian. That was really their only loss of the offseason.
Case Keenum.
They signed Case Keenum. Big signing. Took the Vikings all the way to the NFC Championship, who lost to the reigning
Super Bowl
champion Eagles.
Yes, they did.
So big sign for them. Case Keenum, absolute stud. He's been in below average quarterback ever since he's been in the league, more or less. But he's played for below average teams during that time. So he finally played on a good team, and we saw what he can do. Makes magic happen in the fourth quarter. But so I don't think Denver will be great again. They didn't. Once again, it's another team that didn't do enough to make them a great team, especially in a tough division like the AFC West. So I've got Denver going 7-9 this year, a couple games better, but they're going to need to do a major overhaul of that defense and especially their offensive line, and they need some new receivers.
I'd say the only one I can name on that team right now is Emmanuel Sanders and
he's old.
Thomas.
Talib's gone.
Talib is gone. He went on the bandwagon to L.A. going to join the Rams, and we'll get to them on Friday because that's going to be its own segment with all the pieces that they added. But no, the Broncos, I got them going the exact same record. I got them going 5-11. They didn't do anything other than add a quarterback. But
do you think Case Keenum's going to go 5-11? You think he'll let that happen?
I think so in that division. I don't think the Lightning will strike twice for him. I think Minnesota was a miracle, just like Stephon Diggs catching that on the sideline over, I forget the cornerbacks. Lattimore. Yeah. Maybe he'll go 7-9, like you said. But either way, they're probably going to miss out on the playoffs. That defense, they're not getting any younger. Von Miller's still a stud. Talib is gone now, so they're going to have to replace him. As much of a idiot as he was, and I will say idiot, they're going to have to find someone to replace him because he was a very good player. He still is a very good player when his attitude is kept in check. That's just going to make it easier for the other team's best receiver to get a couple touchdowns in the game, get some first downs. No, 5-11. I don't see him moving anywhere. I mean, yeah, they added a good quarterback, but nothing great. I mean, this is similar to the Brock Osweiler situation when they had him. Do I think Keenum's better than Osweiler that year that he had? I think they're about the same, maybe. Not now.
Like Keenum's a lot better.
That's a big shot on Case Keenum.
I'm not. Listen,
Osweiler was trash.
Listen, no. When he was in Denver and he backed up Peyton Manning, he beat the Patriots. Okay, he had that was the best year of his career. He was a good player at that point, and I'm not talking about the drop off yet. That's where I bring the comparison to. I do think Keenum had a better year last year. Obviously, if you base it off of that, he's a better player.
Right.
I'm just trying to base it off their careers and him being mediocre for the past. Was he been in the league for 5 years now?
Yeah, something like that.
So it's just 5-11. That's where I see him at 6-10 maybe.
First in the AFC West last season, 10-6. Your Kansas City Chiefs. Tyson.
I have loved Kansas City. I've loved watching them play football, and I think they made some of the dumbest mistakes that they ever could have made so far in the offseason. They traded Alex Smith to the Redskins.
Why?
Which I hate because now the Redskins are going to be a decent team because they got a great quarterback on their hands now.
Yeah, but can we stop on that for a second? Why? Why did they trade Alex Smith?
They got a pick out of it, and yeah,
man, that was the first trade that started off NFL free agency.
Yeah, they got a pick and they got Kendall Fuller, the cornerback.
Yeah, it just wow, and that's I think Kyle Fuller's brother. He plays for the Bears. Yeah, that really was a head scratcher for me.
Yeah, that torqued me off on the wrong foot to start the offseason. Why they would get rid of Alex Smith, a proven quarterback. I love Alex Smith. And to see him lead the Chiefs like that, to me, it was very DeMar DeRozan-ish. Yeah. They're like, hey, you're our quarterback. Oh, see ya. Why? That's all I can say. They also let Tamba Hali walk, one of the best defensive linemen in the game. Dude gets...
Is he in Atlanta now?
That sounds right.
I think he's with the Falcons.
Yeah, dude gets, 19 sacks a year just on accident?
In that division. Awful. Yeah.
They also lost Darrelle Revis this past year, which
he
Revis
retired,
Island, he retired. He's had a severe drop-off, which it wasn't necessarily awful that he finally retired and is off the team, but...
I think that was probably a good move for them. But what wasn't a good move is their other corner, Marcus Peters.
Yes.
And losing him to the Rams.
Yep. In which Marcus Peters was one of the best rookie and young defensive players in the league over the last 2 years now.
Yeah, he's a top 3 or 4 defensive back in the league right now. And I like you said, I'm looking at these moves that they made and them hitting the reset button when you got guys like Travis Kelce.
So many guys, offense and defense.
Hill, both, they've
still got Tyreek Hill
and
Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
They still got those two guys. Speed demons can make magic happen on any play.
Who is their middle linebacker? Is that Thomas?
Yes.
He's Derek. Is it Derek Thomas or? I can't remember his first name because they had one that was a stud in the 90s and he passed away. But the one that they have now, wow, he is a stud. And I can't believe I'm having a brain fart on his name. He had was he close to 20 sacks last year? He's a really good run stopper, and I think he's really the anchor of that defense. But offensively, yeah, dude, I am baffled at what they're doing.
They did go out and sign Sammy Watkins. So that's a good signing on the offensive end. Like we were talking about a minute ago, they got Kendall Fuller in that trade. They went out and signed linebacker Anthony Hitchens, who played for Atlanta last 2 years. He played for the Cowboys before that. He played for the Cowboys. They re-signed D'Anthony Thomas, another speed back they can use in the slot position. And they went out and got Kerwin Williams, another running back, which they don't really need with Kareem Hunt back there. Dude can play every down and perform well on every play. But Kansas City, to me, took a huge, major step back this year. From winning the division last year at 10-6, I've got them going 6-10 or worse this season.
Yeah, I've got them going 3-13, just because
I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know who's throwing him the football. Patrick Mahomes?
I would love to see Mahomes play. I like the dude.
I do too.
I don't think he can lead this team to victory like Alex Smith
he's
could.
not. He's not Deshaun Watson. He's not Mitchell Trubisky. He's not even on the top 1 or 2 levels of quarterbacks from that class.
Yep.
I mean, he's in the third tier class, and that's not one that you want to be in when you're starting an entire season in the NFL.
Dude can sling it, but he doesn't make very smart decisions all the time. And he's not very accurate. He can throw it 70 yards, but whether it's going to land, no one knows.
But he's a semi-mobile quarterback, which will help him out. Which, man, I don't. When you have guys like Travis Kelce and them going out and getting Sammy Watkins, why would you not want Alex Smith in the backfield when you know that everyone else in your division is struggling? We saw Oakland. Everyone was hurt last year, but they've lost Crabtree. That was a big blow to them. Marshawn Lynch isn't getting any younger. Okay. You got to see how Derek Carr comes back off that injury. Then you got the LA Chargers. Phillip Rivers isn't getting any younger. Their running back Melvin Gordon is a stud. They've got 2 great pass rushers, and Joey Bosa, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name, but he's on the other side, and they're rushing the quarterback. Keenan Allen, he's not a number 1 receiver, but he's a great number 2.
Above average.
Yeah, he's a great number 2. But there's really no one else on that team. Weddle they lost last year to was it Baltimore?
Ravens,
yeah. So their secondary isn't looking great either. It's just man, I don't see why you would trade away your quarterback when you have a struggling division like that. You could very well win it again at 10-6. If 10-6 is going to win you the division and get in the playoffs, why would you not take your chances again? Right. Tennessee was a fluke. Andy Reid has had this. And you know what I'm talking about. Great coach, but he's had a string of first-round playoff exits, and that's not going to do. So why they would hit the reset button on this, I don't understand. I got him going 3-13.
Next up, let's go to L.A. The Chargers, second in the AFC West, 9-7 last season. What do you think?
The Chargers, once again, another team. They didn't really do a whole lot in the offseason. They didn't really lose anybody. They did go out and sign Mike Pouncey, who we were talking about, big loss for the Dolphins at center. Absolute stud. So they helped Phillip Rivers out a little bit there, but he's not getting any younger. They got Derwin James, safety out of Florida State, I believe, in the draft this year. That's a good pick for him. Helps shore up that secondary a little bit, but their defense has been struggling a little, at least in the secondary.
Yeah.
And their offense isn't really anything to rave about. You touched on it a little bit earlier. They got Keenan Allen. They got Phillip Rivers, who above average quarterback somehow seems to play average every year, though. Kind of like I was talking with Tannehill. He's an above average guy when he wants to be, but his team with Tannehill, I think he's an above average guy that performs averagely. With Rivers, I think he's an above average guy whose team holds him back.
For me, the Chargers always seem to find a way to lose.
Yeah.
Because you always find them on top at some point in the game, and then something happens. They miss a field goal, they get an interception, a fumble, something.
Who were you talking earlier? Only lost like 6 games by like 4 points or less.
Oh, that was the Jets.
The Jets.
4 games lost by 6 points.
The Chargers are the team that loses the same.
Yeah.
If they lose, it's by 3 or less points, just because. But that being said, the Chargers always find a way to come out about average in the season. 9-7 last year, 8-8 the year before, 7-9 the year before. They're always somewhere around that mark. So I think Phillip Rivers will kind of pull them through again this year. He's going to be dragging them, but I think they'll go 8-8 again. Yeah,
I've got them going similar, 7-9. You pretty much hit every point on the head that I wanted to make. Their secondary, average. Front 4, really good. Is that going to be enough for a great defense? Probably not. They're going to be an average team. On offense, Phillip Rivers, we know what he is at this point. We've known what he is the past 3 or 4 years and what you're going to get. And I just don't think in that division it's enough.
Nope.
You know, they could go 8-8, but you're still not going to make the playoffs. Even 9-7 in that division, you're not going to have a tiebreaker over any other division in that. So, yeah, they're going to miss the playoffs barely again. The same old story with LA.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on. Oakland Raiders. They've got John Gruden.
The Raiders.
So they're kind of. I feel like Gruden's going to try to throw it back to the '90s when he had Brad Johnson's back there taking snaps. But anyway, he's got Derek Carr, so he's going to have to settle for that. Last season they were third in AFC West. They were 6-10. I feel like that's going to be completely flipped. I don't feel like they're going to be a 6-10 team next year.
Well, you hit it on the head. Flip it. I've got them going 10-6. Oakland, I think, wins this division this year. You got Derek Carr coming back. If you want to talk about a winner, that's it. Since he's been in this league, he took the crap Raiders organization, who have had so many top 5 picks trying to turn that team around, and he's the one that finally did it. Derek Carr is a winner. Dude can absolutely play. He can sling that thing wherever you want it to go. But you're going to notice a trend here. Oakland lost Alden Smith, Michael Crabtree, Cordarrelle Patterson, Jamike Alawale, Marquette King, and Jihad Ward. All of those guys have an attitude, and John Gruden won't stand for it.
Shout out to Jihad Ward, Illinois boy, real quick.
But a lot of those guys are really good guys, talented guys, but they are guys that will kind of tear your team apart if you let it. So I think getting rid of all those guys wasn't a bad thing. They could have used the talent, but they went out and they picked up Doug Martin. You touched on it earlier. Marshawn Lynch isn't getting any younger, and we saw his season last year. It wasn't great. It was much below his standards. Doug Martin, I think, reverses that. You got a good running back to go with Derek Carr.
He's in a better situation than Tampa Bay.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
he's got a better coach. He's got a better offensive line. He's got a better quarterback. He's just an overall better situation.
Yep. They went out and got Jordy Nelson. I think Jordy Nelson. I'm so glad to see him not in yellow and green anymore.
Yes.
I've loved Jordy Nelson, but by far the team he played on, I've had to hate him. But I'm glad to see Derek Carr throwing to him now. They went out and got Kyle Wilbur, big middle linebacker or outside weak side linebacker. They got Tank Carradine, another big defensive guy. Leon Hall. They went out and got Dwayne Harris as well. Played for the Cowboys and the Giants over the last couple of years. Incredible speed, great kick returner. He can go out one of those guys that's just going to run by anybody.
Is he still rocking the dreads?
Sure is. They went out. They got Martavis Bryant from the Steelers. Martavis Bryant, great piece on that team. And they ended up trading, and they got Ryan Switzer from the Cowboys. One of my favorite players to watch last year on the Cowboys. Another one of those little white guys that just kind of seems to make it work.
Did they really let Switzer go after 1 year?
Sure did.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, he was involved in that trade, couple picks, and they actually sent Jamike Alawale, or however you say his first name, Alawale, to the Cowboys, and the Cowboys gave them Switzer. So they've got some pieces on offense now to go with Amari Cooper and Derek Carr. They've now got Doug Martin, Dwayne Harris, Martavis Bryant, Jordy Nelson, Ryan Switzer. They've got so many guys that are plug and play. I would have liked to see them shore up the offensive line a little bit.
They are getting older, which you would like to see that. But just because they're older, yes, they're more prone to injury, but that also means experience.
Yep.
And I think that if they can find a way to come together, because I think there's been some friction between Carr and the offensive line.
Yep.
If they can fix those problems, I think they'll be in great shape.
And Oakland, they're a team, they saw the problems and they went and fixed them this year. Most of these teams, I've said, haven't really done anything to improve their situation. And that's exactly what Oakland did this year.
I think another thing people are underestimating is their coach. John Gruden, he's going to come in, and he's
Spider Y2 Banana.
Yeah, people are going to be questioning the move because he hasn't coached in, a decade or 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Keep in mind, this guy has stayed very close to the game of football. He's been an analyst for 10 years.
Play-by-play announcer.
Yeah, he's seen it from afar. Yes, he hasn't been in the locker room. He hasn't been on the field. But this is a guy that's won a Super Bowl.
Players respond to him.
Exactly, and he knows how to get things done. And if you're not a part of his system, if you're not on board with the Gruden train, he's going to kick you right off.
Yep.
We can see he's already done it with his free agent acquisitions and trades and all this other stuff. I think that he knows what he's doing, and people call me crazy for it because Gruden at this point is just a crazy old man. I don't see anything wrong with the signing. Yeah, he's probably getting paid too much money, but why the hell not? A good coach is a good coach. I got him going 10-6 as well.
So go ahead, guys, real quick. It's the last division of the AFC we're going to talk about. We'll talk about the NFC on Friday, of course. Who do you think is going to end up on top?
Oakland at 10-6, followed by the Chargers, Denver, and Kansas City taking a big drop off.
I've got same thing. I've got Oakland, LA Chargers, Denver, Kansas City following up. The dumpster fire of the AFC West. Now, with that said, we're going to go ahead and switch it over to some MLB. Probably ran a little too long on that, but hey, we haven't talked football yet this year. We had to get it out. Let's go ahead and start it off with the LA Dodgers, boys. They beat the Milwaukee Brewers 2-1 this weekend. Now they're up 1.5 games on the Colorado Rockies. What do you think about Machado on his debut?
Soft. I would have liked to see more, especially with the number he picked, number 8, considering the fact that Kobe Bryant's so-called his favorite player of all time. I don't know. I just would like to see more out of Manny Machado. I know there's an adjustment period that these guys got to get through. You know, Machado's not used to playing with good teams. Let's just put that straight right off the bat right now. He's not used to playing with good players, good pitching. He's coming from the NL to the AL to the NL, so that's going to be a big adjustment. And he's got to play with underneath the Hollywood lights. So big adjustment for him. He was like 2 for 3 with 5 at bats.
5 at bats, 2 walks.
He's batting .318 with a .936 OPS. So that's not horrible in 3 games or for a weekend. It's a pretty decent weekend. I just would like to see him go a little bit higher than that, which he will. Give it time. Give him a couple more days, a couple more weeks to get adjusted.
You're saying this like 2 and 3 is a bad day, let alone with 2 walks on top of that.
2 for 3 with 5 ABs. I mean, you know, it's hard to pitch to Machado.
It's getting on base, and that's what counts. I mean, you're right. I'd have liked to see him swing the bat. I'd just love to see him hit 5 home runs this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I wanted to see him
do. 2 for 3 with 2 walks. It's not too bad. Like you said, a lot of adjustment period. I think he'll get there.
LA's 7-3 in their last 10. They're going to be 10-0 in one of these next 10 game stretches with Machado. Although Turner just went on the DL, that's going to hurt them.
Yep.
So they lose a base stealer, a hitter, their third baseman, but that don't really matter because they got Max Muncy, who proved himself in the home run derby, and they also could have Machado play short or third. It don't really matter. Machado's a utility guy. I'm excited to see what he's going to do in LA, but as a Cubs fan, being biased here, I'm really nervous about what LA is going to do. I don't want to call it too early because it's like I said, the trade deadline's not even over yet. But I feel like in October you could see another Chicago Cubs, Los Angeles Dodgers, NLDS or CS, excuse me.
Let's go ahead and move on down the list here. By the way, I wanted good takes on Machado, boys. Real quick, get my 2 cents on it. I thought that it was. I'm gonna take Tyson's side on this. That 2 for 3 is a good day for anybody. Let's be honest. But at 5 at bats, I see where you're coming from, Cale. But like he's saying,
he still drew 2 walks.
So. Right. If you're gonna get on base, that's what counts. And
right.
we want to see him hit because that's what he does. But the fact that he got on base, that's what the Dodgers acquired him for by any means necessary. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as he keeps getting on base, then I think they can be content with that. Moving on here, we need to talk about the Braves and Phillies. They're still tied for first place in the NL East. At this point, coming down to the end of July, who is going to break the tie? Who's going to come out on top?
So as of last night when I put these show notes together, because I typically do them, the Phillies and the Braves are still tied. The Braves actually lost last night. So now
the Phillies are up by half.
They're actually
one full
game back now. So that being said, still don't count Atlanta out. They're a full game back. They're not gonna be a full game back next week. Unless Philly, I think they got a little bit of an easier schedule coming up. Atlanta's kind of got into the meat of theirs now, so they're going to have a rough couple weeks, couple series. But the fact that they're only still a game back, so they're still winning games. They're 4-6. They'll still be right there with the Phillies. But to answer your question, Gav, though, I'm going to go ahead and say that Philly's going to win the NL East right off the bat. But I'm going to go ahead and say this too: is that the Braves are going to get the wild card spot.
I agree with you. I think Philly takes this division. I think they take it by a couple games. I don't think it'll be close. That being said, the reason I believe that, Atlanta started this year almost 10 games ahead of anybody in that division. They came out hot, and they have dropped off something fierce since then. They're 10 games above 500 still, but that's creeping up on them quickly. Their run differential has dropped drastically. They're 4-6 in their last 10, so we can see they're starting to trend downwards. They're still average-ish over their last couple weeks, but we can see it starting to trend downwards. So I don't know if Atlanta's still going to end up in that wild card spot, one of the two. But I do think Philly's going to win that division outright.
Milwaukee is a half, as of right now, it's only July 23rd. So as of right now, Milwaukee is a half a game up in the wild card. Atlanta, half a game behind them. And then the Arizona Diamondbacks are a full game back from Atlanta. So they do have the plus on side on games played. Milwaukee does, but the Braves are right there with them. They'll have that plus side here for long. Colorado's 1.5 back, and there's a little bit of a surprise in this wild card race that we're going to get to in just a second.
Absolutely. But first we got to talk about the NL Central, and then we'll go ahead and get to that in a second. The Cubs had a 5-game series with the Cardinals. They ended up winning over the weekend 3-2. They split the day-night doubleheader Saturday. Matt Carpenter had a hell of a game. Cale, I know you have some stats on this, and you're eager to talk about this.
So Matt Carpenter, I want to get this off of the ground real quick. He on Friday, the Cards beat the Cubs 18-5. John Lester had a lackluster performance. I was really
lackluster.
I was really pissed off about this. Sorry, I just was. John Lester's going to hopefully not fall into this track where he was right at the beginning of the year, where he's going to throw bad games and then get back into it. We need him dominant because he is our best pitcher in our rotation right now, in my opinion. But Matt Carpenter, more on him. This weekend, he was 9 for 17. Five of those hits came on Friday. So he was 5 for 5 on Friday. 6 home runs, 3 on Friday. He had a 7-game home run streak going into Saturday, but Sunday that got snapped finally, thank God, so we don't have to worry about that. But he had 10. This is the stat that I'm falling in love with the most, and it is a Cardinals player. I'm kind of sad, but I'm kind of gushing over this right now. He had 10 RBIs. 7 of them came on Friday. 7 RBIs. Now he did have 3 long balls, but keep in mind 7 RBIs in one 9-inning game. That just tells you how bad the Cubs pitching was to a good Cardinals batter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't knock Matt Carpenter because in 94 games and 399 plate appearances this year, he's hit 25 long balls, 65 runs scored himself, 53 RBIs. He walks 14% of the time, strikes out 22% of the time, has 93 hits, batting .277, 386 on-base percentage, 589 slugging with a 4.2 wins above replacement or WAR. That, to me, right there is all-star numbers. So, I mean, did he get gypped in the All-Star contest? Not necessarily, because he didn't really kick it on till this series with the Cubs.
He's had a good season all season, but he definitely turned it up this last weekend.
And that's going to be real scary.
I just want to say maybe this is his way of letting voters know that you forgot about me.
Right.
That's a very legitimate statement.
So
well, and Matt Carpenter's been a household name for the last several years, and it seems like everyone just kind of forgot about him this year. But you've seen a couple of the nights he's had. This isn't the first time he's gone 5 for 5 this year.
No.
I think about a month ago he went 5 for 5 with 2 home runs, and a triple and a double or something like that.
It was against the Mets, I think.
Yeah. This isn't the first time he's played outstanding over a series.
Going 5 for 5 against anybody is tough.
Well, going 5 for 5 against Chicago, let alone the dumpster fire that is the New York Mets.
Minus Chicago plus John Lester, 5 for 5 with 3 home runs. That's what I'm stuck on. That's why I'm so baffled by this performance.
Yeah, well, nothing short of incredible.
But yeah, Matt Carpenter's saying, "Hey, I am still here. Don't forget about me." He is still the all-star that he once was, and he's having a MVP type season on a below-average Cardinals team for what they usually perform at.
Well, this is the problem I have is that he may be a great player, but his team is not showing for it. They've moved down to 4th place in the NL Central, and that must mean that someone is in 3rd. Who that team is, the Pittsburgh Pirates, gentlemen, are on a 9-game win streak right now. And they've moved to 4.5 games back of Milwaukee, who do hold the 5th seed wild card place. What kind of chance do you give the Pirates here to possibly make a wild card run?
With the differential of -3.
Which it was negative 98 or something.
In 10 games, it went from negative. It was actually -101.
Yeah.
So in 10 games, it went from -101 to -3. That tells you right there that they're doing something right. And you know what that something right is? Putting guys on base. That's exactly what they're doing. They're playing old school Little League baseball. And that's what wins you ball games. But the fact that they're 9-1 in their last 10 is amazing. They're remarkable. I'm gonna tell you right now. I counted them out the first half of the year. I didn't even think about them.
Oh, agreed. When it was like 12 games back of first place in the Central. I said they don't have a chance at even a wild card spot, let alone winning the division.
But with, like you're saying that, with the Cardinals' woes they're having and all these issues they're having in the clubhouse and everything else, the Pirates just been sitting there creeping up. Now, do I think that they're going to get a wild card shot? If they keep playing like this the rest of the year, which they'd have to play like this all the way through, then they might. But I just see them teetering out here for long. But if I do stand corrected, they are on pace to potentially be in a wild card spot and beating Atlanta and Philly.
They're 4 games back out of the second wild card spot right now, which puts them in 4th overall in the wild card race.
Well, This is good news for Pittsburgh, is that they're on a 9-game win streak right now. They've already swept the Milwaukee Brewers. They've swept the Cincinnati Reds, and now they play the Cleveland Indians. The Indians, yes, they're in first place, but they're in the worst division in baseball.
Yep.
And then right after that, they play the New York Mets. They have a chance to get 4 sweeps in these series. Now, if they do that, they're going to, depending on what Milwaukee does, because they're 2-8 in their last 10, they have the potential to maybe creep up into that second spot there in just the next couple weeks.
If they sweep these next 3 series they got against some very lackluster teams, because I know they got Cleveland this week. And who else? I can't remember who they're playing this weekend. You got it?
It is Cleveland this weekend.
It's this weekend. So if they can sweep Cleveland, which they probably will, because Cleveland can't beat an NL team, that's just obvious. Because the AL is the garbage league of the two. Talk about dumpster fires. But anyway, outside of your top teams,
come on.
I'll talk about that in a second. The fact too that I feel like if they could sweep this weekend and get another 10-game win streak going, possibly even 20, which is really hard to do. I don't know if they'll be able to do it.
That's the problem is right after the Mets, they have to play the Cubs.
Okay, well, they're not going to beat the Cubs.
They're not going to beat them, but they might be able to take some games because they are at home.
I'll give them 1 game.
It's also an NL Central game, which the Cubs do struggle against the NL Central.
Yes.
Right.
They perform very well. They'll take games against the NL Central, but we saw it against the Reds. We lose games to the Reds.
Swept.
We lose games to the Pirates. It's interesting how that's going to play out. If Pittsburgh does perform like they should in these next couple series, that puts them up into first place for the wild card race. Because I guarantee the other teams in that race aren't going to be that kind of winning percentage over the next 2 weeks.
No, absolutely not.
Pittsburgh is 4.5 back from Milwaukee right now. If they sweep their series against Milwaukee and the Mets and all these easier series they've got coming up, Milwaukee's going to keep dropping out, like we said. St. Louis is going to keep dropping out, like we said. And we've already seen that. They've already overpassed St. Louis. There's a good chance they overtake Milwaukee and Arizona and Colorado and these other National League wild card teams. Especially, they've won 9 games straight. If they can win a couple more and go on another heater for another 9 games just in the next couple months, they're in a really good spot. We didn't see this coming at all.
I'm going to say this right now. If they can go on a 16-0 streak, which they have a 4-game series against Cleveland and a 3 versus Cleveland, 4 versus the Mets. If they can do that and Milwaukee does keep dropping it, in the next 2 weeks, they will be in second place in the division.
One thing I'll say about since they have the Mets up, Syndergaard's out. He's on the DL because he's got some type of viral illness he picked up from a Little League camp that he hosted a couple weeks ago.
Well, and the Mets are also looking to move DeGrom.
And hopefully he ends up in Chicago, which Chicago is pushing for him a little bit.
And the Mets already got rid of Uris Familia.
Yeah, and they just got traded to the A's. So they have already lost a lot of their pitching, especially with Ford being out on the DL with that viral illness. It very well possibly could happen that they sweep them 6.
All right, moving on here, we got to talk about some free agency. Like you said, Familia was traded from the Mets. A good segue. Was traded from the Mets to the A's. It's a big step for the A's with their arm with this arm now in the bullpen. What does this mean for Oakland trying to gain ground on the Mariners?
I'm gonna give it to you straight up. He had in 40 games this season. All from the pen. He is 4 for 4, 4 wins, 4 losses, 4 and 4, not 4, 4, 4, 4 and 4, 2.88 ERA, 17 saves, and this is the stat that's impressive. This is Uris Familia that I like to see. 1 long ball allowed in 40 in the third. So 40 in the third innings, he's allowed 1 home run, and that dude just throws pure heat. He's just like a roll-dist in the NL, and he's been kind of forgotten about because who does he play for or used to play for? The Mets. Now that he's with the A's, Gavin, he is going to help them out and potentially put them in the wild card contention in the AL. Although they would have to mount a heck of a comeback, just like the Pirates would, because the New York Yankees are up, almost 4 games in the lead for the 4.5 games in the lead for the wild card in the AL. But no, it's a big deal. The A's got a decent, solid closer. That's what they needed. I've been watching more and more A's games. I still can't tell you a single player on there, but I'm liking the A's, man. I'm pulling for them. I like them underdogs.
Yeah, Real quick, I just want to say I don't disrespect Oakland. Okay, I just didn't think with a bunch of nobodies that they'd be able to do what they're doing, and it's respectable. I'm not going to degrade them for that, but I still think that Seattle's going to hold on to this. Okay.
Well, I will say this with that statement: King Felix the other day gave up 9 runs in the first half of the inning, or for top of the first. Wow, if I can speak English, gave up 9 runs in the top of the first. That's a little bit disappointing and nerve-wracking for the Mariners fans.
Mariners are also 4-6 in their last 10, something like that. 4-6. So they've dropped a couple here. They are starting to scare me. They're still 3 ahead on Oakland. But the more and more we watch Oakland play, Oakland's still 7-3 in their last 10. They were 8-2 last time we talked about them. They're still winning games, and that's scary for Seattle. Especially now that they picked up a closer and they're going to have a much easier time closing out games instead of having to kind of struggle all the way through the game. They've got it sealed after the 8th inning if they can get Familia in the game. So it's looking scarier and scarier for Seattle. It was already scary last week when we talked about it with just Oakland coming up how they were. Now they've got some more pieces to play along with. It's definitely getting a little sketchy out there. I think Oakland's got a really good shot at making a run for that second wild card spot. I think the Yankees will definitely take the first one. But Oakland's got a hell of a shot at taking that second spot.
For sure.
Real quick, we need to talk about the Cubs before we move on to another AL team. Their pitching, we've already talked about it multiple times on this show. It's been something to watch this season, just how good they can be and how really, really bad they can be in games. They need to fix this problem, and they've been looking at guys like Zach Britton and others who would be a nice pickup for them in the bullpen to try and fix these woes for the Cubs.
They got Jesse Chavez from Texas, so that helps a lot. He's a good setup man. He's proven that with the Rangers. He can come in, set games up, hold them. That's what we need. Stropey, he's a little inconsistent in my opinion. A lot of people like Strope. I'm not knocking him. I just don't like the fact that he could be hit or he could be a big miss, depending on what day it is and what Pedro Strope we're going to get. So
Chavez can also start. He started 17 times last year, even though he hasn't started a game yet this year.
I feel like he would be more beneficial to Chicago coming out of the bullpen. But there's one specific spot in that bullpen that the Cubs also need help with, because we still have CJ, Carl Edwards Jr. We've got Dunsing. You're a big Dunsing fan. I don't like him per se. We got Cishek. And so our relievers aren't bad. But we need a closer. Brandon Morrow, a guy me and you were both excited to see this year.
He's stolen from the Dodgers. It was so exciting, and we haven't seen him.
He's been on the DL. I mean, the first time he was on the DL this season, he got hurt. He hurt his back putting on pants. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, if you remember that story, that was something else.
That happens, I guess. But now he's hurt because he's got a right shoulder inflammation or something like that. Yeah. So Zach Britton coming from the Orioles, who is also being talked about, he's also talked about being dealt to the New York Yankees and the Houston Astros, along with the Chicago Cubs, who are the 3, World Series contenders, or 3 contenders right there. So we need him in Chicago. Hopefully Theo Epstein, Jed Hoyer can, push for him a little bit. And land Britton for this second half of the season as a rental pitcher. Then we can get rid of him because we still have Morrow. I like him a lot better than Zach Britton, other than he just needs to stay healthy.
Yeah, agreed. I would like to see Britton, but I'm afraid we'll have to give up too much just for him to be a rental. The same reason I was scared of Manny Machado. We'd have to give up too much for a half-season rental. Same thing with Kawhi. I'm scared teams would have to give up too much, which they did. R.I.P. DeMar DeRozan, gave up way too much for a rental that we know isn't going to stick around, or we don't really want to stick around because we still got Morrow. But he is a good short-term solution, but I think the price might be too high for what it is.
He's definitely worth the money. Somebody's going to give it to him, whether it's not at this 31st deadline or the next 31st deadline. So he'll get it somewhere, even if he's got to stay in Baltimore one more season. And I know he doesn't want to because he wants to stay there.
All right, moving on. We got to go back to the American League, boys, real quick. First team to reach 70 wins this year, the Boston Red Sox. Chris Sale just continues to impress. I mean, he is something else. And you got to think, man, the White Sox gave him up. I don't think they knew what they were giving up when they did.
They knew. He just couldn't get along with the team.
That's exactly right.
Because they were so bad.
Yes.
See, I know that they were bad, but this guy is looking like the best pitcher in baseball. And
he's always been up there,
and
for sure.
it's unfathomable to me that you can let a guy like that walk and you can't surround him with any kind of talent that would make him want to stay.
He walked because
he didn't like the itchy jerseys.
He walked because A, he didn't like the itchy jerseys. 2, they couldn't win a ball game. 3, they wouldn't put anybody around him to win ball games. 4, he hated the GM.
Yeah,
that's why he walked. It wasn't because the White Sox wanted him to walk. Well, it was because they wanted him to walk. They were tired of his attitude. They were tired of his antics on the field and in the clubhouse. They were tired of it. But like you're saying, Gavin, I agree 100%. It sucks that they had to let the best pitcher go to the best team in baseball right now. And the White Sox have to play them guys, every now and then. So that hurts a lot. But with 9 Ks, he averages 9 Ks every time he starts. He's got a fastball. He's like 34, 32, 33, somewhere in there. He's got a fastball averaging 101 miles an hour, and he can stay in the game for 7 to 8 innings and even throw a complete game if he has to. So, Chris Sale, dominant pitcher. Real quick, 70 wins. They're 70-31 on the year. I'm not that impressed. Yeah, they got to it quick. But look who they're playing. They're playing the Toronto Blue Jays. They're playing the Oakland Athletics, the Angels, the Rangers,
the Orioles.
The Orioles.
Right.
And in the AL division, that whole side.
Besides the division leaders and the Yankees, it's not very good.
They can't even beat, or they can just walk all over Cleveland too. So you can't even include Cleveland in that. So 70 wins, yeah, but they're the best team in the AL division besides the Yankees. But now they're having a 4.5 game up or lead over the New York. So obviously they're proving that they're better than New York. Although Benintendi just went on the DL, I think it's only the 10 days, so he should be back here for long. But
they're still 5 games up, so that's a pretty big cushion as of right now.
As of right now, it is because New York keeps continuing to decline, and they lost to the Mets on Saturday afternoon. So that's saying something right there.
That's a highlight of a Mets fan season right
there.
Yes, it is. All right, let's go ahead and finish it off with Chris Archer, his 13 strikeouts on Saturday. What did you guys think about that?
13 strikeouts, that's an impressive feat for any pitcher on any team in any season. 13 strikeouts is a lot of strikeouts. It's not the 20 strikeouts that Scherzer had a couple years ago. But 13, that's a lot of punch-outs in he didn't even go 9 innings. What was it, like 6? Yeah, that's a lot of punch-outs.
6 2/3.
Yeah, that's a lot of punch-outs through almost 7 innings. That's almost 2 an inning. Good on him. There's been talks of him being traded. Whoever he goes to is picking up a really good pitcher in Chris Archer.
So the reason why I put this in here was for the fact that, yes, Chris Archer, when he came into the league, was one of the best and most talked about pitchers, especially for the AL division. I want to see him get out of there because he could do so much more than what he's doing in Tampa Bay with a better team. I'd like to see him come to the NL. Maybe not the Cubs, but anywhere other than Tampa Bay or Baltimore or Boston or whoever could beat the Cubs in the World Series or the Divisional Series.
I think he'd be a good fit on the Mariners.
Yeah, he would be, and I feel like, honestly, even though King Felix did get hurt, I feel like him and King Felix with the 1 ace being King Felix rotation, Felix Hernandez, and 2 Chris Archer, that would be pretty deadly. But with 13 Ks and you're wanting to get traded, man, that's going to get the scouts looking. They're going to be looking real hard at you. If you can average 13 Ks a game, which he can because he's still fairly young. He's not much older than us. I think 22, 23.
Like that.
So Chris Archer, good pitcher, phenomenal. Hopefully he gets out of Tampa Bay. I like watching him pitch. He's got a nice delivery, smooth and clean. So he's got a heck of a slider that's hard to hit, which when you're young and you still have the arm velocity like that young Cardinals core has, they don't really need to worry about throwing junk pitches as your sliders or change-ups or whatever because you can just gas it past people like Aroldis Chapman does or Chris Sale. But as you get older, he's already got those junk pitches, whether that curveball, that slider, that backdoor change, or even a cutter. He throws a cutter too at about 83, 84. So that's pretty impressive that he has all his junk pitches, perfected, ready to go, ready to rock for when he's in his 30s, mid-30s, and he loses his arm velocity.
I want to finish off with this. This wasn't on the list today, but I need to get it out there. The Washington Nationals still sitting at 500 at 49-49. Can we go ahead and put the nail in the coffin for them this season?
Not yet. Bryce Harper.
Never over when you got Bryce Harper on the field.
Yep. Although I will say this, they had an issue the other day. Steven Strasburg made his debut after being on the bench, injured for the last 27 days. They had an issue on the bench.
And Scherzer got into it, right?
Yep, and the quotation that I heard from Scherzer to Strasburg was saying, let's go down in the tunnel and settle this to where nobody can see it or hear us or anything like that. And apparently they did go down there.
They did.
And I don't know what happened. Don't really care to know what happened other than Dave Martinez, the old bench coach for the Chicago Cubs, who's now the manager for the Nationals, had to have a 15 to 25-minute conversation with both Scherzer and Strasburg. Now, the thing is when they're struggling like this, Scherzer, I can understand why he's heated because he's still locked on a contract, unlike Harper. He can't go nowhere. He wants to perform. I mean, he's a dominant ace. You can't blame him for being upset, especially if he felt like Strasburg was only given 30% on the mound or 50% or whatever. Strasburg's another ace. They got two aces. There's no reason why they should be struggling like they are. But in order for them to do anything, they need Harper to heat up. That's it right there. That's the thing, is that if Harper can heat up, they're good. I'm not worried about it at all.
Hell, they've got a third ace in Gio Gonzalez.
Everybody forgets. I forget about him too.
They've got those two guys so good at the top, 1 and 2, that everyone forgets about Gio. Any one of those three is an ace on any other team. They've got 3 great pitchers. They've got Bryce Harper. They've got pieces all over. They just can't. They're still not coming together. Now, with Bryce Harper on the field, you can never count him out. If those 3 guys start pitching like we know they can, you can never count it out. But until we see it, it's looking very bleak right now, but it's definitely not over.
This is just a minute, or giving more hope to me and Tyson, Gavin, the rest of the Cubs fans around the world. Even though Gavin's kind of a fair-weathered Cubs fan, we'll give him that. I've just been ripping him all day, but anyway, it's giving hope to the rest of the Cubs fans that we're going to see Bryce Harper in a Chicago jersey next year. So I don't know. I feel like the Nationals aren't done yet, but after about maybe August 10th or so, I'll have another opinion for you.
I tell you what, if Harper ends up coming to the Cubs, that'll be the first piece of Cubs hardware that I actually purchase. How about that?
There you go.
Let me just say this. I feel like I should be able to have a team, Cale, in each division, okay, or each league, all right? So the Blue Jays are my American League team, and then, of course, I gotta pick the Cubs. I'm from Illinois. What do you want from me, right? I mean, what am I going to be, a White Sox fan? Sorry, Dad. No, with that said, I'll just go ahead and wrap it up here. I just need to get your guys' takes on the Nationals because they've been average all season long, this is a team that we thought would be perform well above 49 wins at this point. So is that all we got for today?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go ahead.
Des got it.
That's one last thing. I'm a Bears fan. Des still caught the ball. I'm not even a Cowboy fan, and he caught the ball. Didn't the refs come out and say that he did?
I've got the screenshot that the NFL reviewed it 4 years later and said that he caught it.
Yeah, Des caught the ball. Hashtag Des caught it. Go ahead and start tweeting that out. 4 years later?
Yep.
Jeez. All right.
Tweet it at me, at Tyson Snyder.
Let's go ahead and wrap things up here. That's all we have for you today. If you like what you heard, please go ahead and hit that red subscribe button down below and hit that bell icon to the right so you don't miss a beat. Make sure to follow us at our social media on Twitter at sports_twin. With that said, my name is Gavin Campbell. Tyson Snyder, Cale Fleming. We'll see you next time.
Peace.